How you pace your marathon is one of the biggest factors in determining the outcome of your race. If you get it wrong, then all of that hard work and training will go out the window. But if you get it right, you just might have the race of your life. Hey guys, I'm Jane, an RRCA certified running coach. I've run 7 marathons, including 2 Boston qualifying times. And I can tell you from experience that one of the hardest things to get right in the marathon is the pacing. And that's because we as humans just naturally want to go out way too fast when we're racing. We're excited and we're ready to go. And we think that if we go as fast as we can at the beginning, then whatever happens at the end of the race won't matter because we'll have banked all of the time at the beginning, when that's actually one of the absolute worst things that you can do. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you the best way to pace a marathon, and we're gonna go ahead and start with the very beginning. All right, so let's talk about the start of that race. If we've learned anything from elite runners, it's that the best way to pace a marathon is by running negative splits. So that means that the first half of your marathon is going to be faster than the last half of your marathon. And if you don't believe me, here is a quote published in the National Library of Medicine, and it states, "Blood lactate accumulation is associated with development of muscle fatigue and negatively correlated to endurance performance." In other words, if you go out too fast in your marathon, you are going to pay for it big time in those later miles. It is based on science. It has been proven that the best way to pace a marathon is to go out slow. So let's talk about how you're going to do this. So in those first at least 1 to 4 miles, you want to be going about 15 seconds slower than your marathon goal pace. And hopefully you already know what your marathon goal pace is before going into the race day and watching this video. But if you don't know, I would recommend checking out my video that talks about how to use the Macmillan calculator to use a recent race trial or race time to figure out that marathon pace that is right for you. The most important reason that you want to go slower in those first 1 to 4 miles is because you want to conserve energy, meaning that you are going to have energy when it really matters late in the race. So a lot of people have heard of this concept of banking time. It's the absolute worst way to pace a marathon. With banking time, people think it's fine, I'm just going to go out fast in the beginning, and if I feel like crap at the end, it won't matter because I have this big cushion of time. And so even if I go a little bit slower in those late miles, it's not going to matter because I'll have all this extra time and then I'm still going to get the time that I want. That could not be further from the truth. Instead, what's going to happen is, yes, you're going to absolutely go slower in the end of your race, but you're going to go much, much slower than you intended. You're going to use up all of your energy reserves, so much so that you're probably going to end up running really slow, if not walking, when that is not the marathon you trained for. Now, if you train to walk in the marathon, then that's something completely different. I'm talking to those of you who are planning to run the entire marathon and stay on pace for your marathon, whatever pace that might be. And so no matter who you are, no matter what pace you're running, you want to have that 15 seconds per mile slower in those first at least 4 miles of your race, if not even going out to maybe 6 miles. So biggest takeaway from this is do not bank time. Make sure you have a conservative start. Do not worry about what everyone else is doing. I guarantee you that most of the people around you are not going to be following this method. They're going to be going out way too fast. Don't worry about them passing you. You're going to be seeing them later on in the race when you pass them. Okay, so let's talk about these middle miles. And if you guys are enjoying this video and getting value out of it, I would appreciate if you press the like button below. Make sure you subscribe so you can watch my videos of all things running. Okay, so these middle miles, you can slowly start to work towards that marathon pace. Now, don't just all of a sudden in, mile 6, you've been running 15 seconds slower per marathon pace, and now all of a sudden you're running marathon pace. You want to gradually work towards that marathon pace. That's the best strategy that you can do here. Remember, guys, this is a marathon, literally not a sprint, and so you're going to have plenty of time to make up that time. So don't worry that you're not on pace. You're not going to be on pace right now. You're not going to be on pace at the half marathon point either. That's totally fine. Once you get to the half marathon, you're going to have an entire half marathon to make up that time. Don't worry, I promise this works. All right, so in those middle miles, I really want you to focus on even effort, and that goes for the entire race itself. but you want to focus on even effort, not even pace. So what do I mean by that? A lot of people think that they're going to go in a marathon even pace, running the same pace for every single mile, which isn't a good strategy anyway, but that only really works if your marathon is flat or like completely downhill. If you're in any type of race that has any sort of hills whatsoever, then you want to focus on running even effort. That means on the uphills, it's going to be harder for you. And so your time is going to slow down a little bit by keeping that even effort. Anything flat will be, staying close to that marathon pace, if that's where you're at and that's what you're aiming for. And then anything on the downhill, you can go a little bit faster, because with even effort going on a downhill, it's just easier, right? So that's what even effort is. Make sure that you feel the same on the uphills as you do on the downhills, and your times will reflect that. One of the biggest things I can tell you guys is to really focus on your body and how you're feeling. The fatigue is going to set in at some point. It's going to feel hard. That's normal in a race, but there is also the beyond normal. If it's feeling like too much at any point in time during these middle miles, back off. It is much better to back off a little bit than try to keep pushing the marathon pace that you know you're not going to be able to hold on to. It's much better to just back off, even by 10 seconds per mile, 15 seconds per mile. It makes a huge difference, and it'll make a big difference in those late miles of your race. If you need to back off a little bit, be okay with that, and you can always reassess as the marathon goes on. Just continue to tell yourself that, running in the mile that you're in, don't focus on the next miles, run in that mile and do what you need to do for that mile. And you never know what might come next. All right, so getting into the late miles of the race, it's time to push it, and you want to give that finishing kick. So hopefully, if you paced your marathon the right way and you were really conservative in the beginning of your race and in that first half, that means you have a lot of energy to give at the end of the race. Now, I'm not telling you that it's not going to feel extremely hard, that you're going to feel maybe a little bit overwhelmed, super fatigued, your legs are hurting. That is totally normal in a marathon, especially in this last few miles. What the most important thing is right now is that you are pushing your body to its limits to do everything that you've trained for at this point in time. So a big part of this at this point of the race is not letting your mind go to any negative spots, continuing to stay positive, because one of my favorite mantras, which you can use in your marathon too, I use it in mine, is the body achieves what the mind believes. Meaning, if you're saying things like, I can't do this, then absolutely your body's not going to be able to do it. Just remember that your mind gives up before your body does. So if you're staying positive and telling yourself you can do it, make it to the finish line the best that you can, then you will do it. Now, what this means is that you are pushing. You're at the absolute push pace at this point. You're not going to be able to sprint by any means, but you're just going really as hard as you can, hanging on to that pace as much as you can till the end of the marathon. I would discourage you from looking too much at your watch, because what happens late in a marathon is that you think you are going faster than you actually are. It's very, very common. I've been in a situation where I'm like, yeah, I'm going so fast. I must be going like 8-minute miles. And I look down and I'm like at 8:40s. And that's just going to get you frustrated and even more discouraged. And so instead of constantly looking at your watch, just keep pushing, knowing that the finish line is near, and think of everything awesome that's going to happen when you cross that finish line, and that all of that hard work is going to pay off for you. So again, do that conservative start. Don't bake time, and you will have an amazing day out there in your marathon. I'm so excited for you guys. Let me know in the comments what marathon you have coming up so I can cheer you on, and I will catch you guys in the next video.